Hola amores, what's up guys? It is your girl Christina, and in today's Let's Chat video, I wanted to briefly speak on the subject of colorism. With the whole drama surrounding Chris Brown's lyrics last week, this topic of colorism has kind of resurfaced again. Not that it really ever truly went away, but it's just created some more conversations regarding this issue. And I did briefly touch on that whole drama surrounding his lyrics in my previous video, where I also talked about the whole drama surrounding the casting of The Little Mermaid. If you haven't checked that video out. And also, before I get on to the video, if you like this here look, it is part of my summertime makeup series, so you can check that out. And I hope these lashes aren't too distracting. They are huge. I didn't realize how big they were until I actually put them on. This is my first time wearing them. So anywho, on to the topic of today's video. So colorism, as we all know, it is something that has been around for a very long time. It stems from, slavery and colonization, and it is something that is still very present in many of our communities. It is something that is, you can definitely see that exists here within the Black community in the United States. It's something that definitely still takes place in Latin America, and in pretty much most areas of the world, you find this issue of colorism. And you see people favoring or showing preference for, lighter features or what are considered more European type of features. And they may speak negatively or dislike, they don't show a lot of favor towards the, more Black type of features. So I think in a lot of facets of society and a lot of the things that we come across and a lot of the media that is like thrown to us and shown in our faces, we kind of learn very early on that this exists. We might not be fully aware of it, as kids, but we do notice, especially on TV and in music videos, how, certain artists, especially within the Black community, how they promote lighter skinned women, how they, the standard of beauty tends to center around the more, mixed or, lighter skinned type of women. And, as a, young lady growing up, especially if you are darker skinned, I feel like that can kind of affect your self-esteem. It can affect how desirable you perceive yourself to be to, other people. And it can make you have like a complex about yourself, and it just make you feel, it can make you feel less than, it can make you feel ugly. And so, I don't want to spend too much on like what colorism actually is, because we all know what it is, but I wanted to make this video more so about what we can do to help combat this issue. Now, because this conversation has come up so much more, I do think that you now see a lot more, darker skinned people speaking out about it. You see more of a push for, more positive representation of darker skinned people. You see, women with darker skinned women being more celebrated. You see the beauty of darker skin and darker features and like more Afro type of hair being celebrated a lot more than it previously was. So I definitely feel like that is a, step in the right direction, kind of, promoting more positive images and more positive messages, around, these type of features. But, I came across an article, within the last couple of days, and it was about colorism and what we can do to kind of help fight it. And within that article, there were two main points that really stood out to me. And so that's what I kind of want to focus on more in this video. The first one was the impact that we, especially as parents, have. And then the second is the role that men play in this. So starting with the first point. So family members basically assign value to babies the day they are born, especially if the baby belongs to an ethnic type of family. I've definitely seen this with Black babies. They immediately start talking about the texture of their hair, their skin color. If they have a wide nose, they talk about it. If they have light eyes, it's like the end of the world. Like, oh my goodness, it's like the best thing in the world. I mean, of course, light eyes are beautiful. But from the minute a baby is born, the family members assign value to that child based on their features. And in this article, they said how sometimes we don't realize just how powerful we are in shaping our children's psyche and how they view themselves. If from a young age they hear you say maybe calling their hair texture nappy, or you constantly point out that they have a big nose or big old lips, or something my mom actually mentioned to me is that when she was coming up, people would sometimes like pinch their babies' noses to make them thinner. Like, I guess since I don't know, when you're a baby, your bones are still kind of forming, and I guess it can be somewhat shaped, but they would literally do this to people's noses, or to the baby's noses, to make sure that they didn't grow up to have wide noses. So, all these type of things, it can really affect the way that, a child views themselves. And another important thing that they mentioned in that article is that when we also see, because we might not be the ones like making these comments, but other family members will. And when we witness that type of stuff, we have to be able to check them and say, hey, don't make those type of comments. And even with my two daughters, my youngest daughter, she doesn't even look like she's my daughter, honestly. Her features are so different to me than me and like my other daughter, my oldest. But my youngest daughter, her hair texture is very different from my texture hair and even my oldest daughter's hair. Her hair is a lot more like smoother. It's a smoother texture. It's a looser curl. Like, she don't even look like she's half Dominican or 3/4 Dominican. It's just very fine, soft type of hair. And already I've witnessed, family members saying like, wow, she got that good hair. Like, she has good hair. I mean, they say my oldest daughter has good hair too, or, nice hair. But it's like they especially look at hers and are like, wow, she got that good hair, And so I don't always speak up, but I should, because the last thing I want is for my oldest daughter to grow up thinking like, well, how come my hair is not pretty? How come everybody likes her hair? And not to mention, my older daughter she's a little darker than my youngest one. So I definitely don't want it to become like a lighter skin versus darker skin type of thing, or, smoother hair versus like, more poofier hair type of thing, In my experience, my mom, she's lighter than me. She's not super light, but, she's lighter than me and my sister. But I was fortunate enough that even though me and my sister were both darker than her, or are darker than her, she never made us feel some type of way about that. From very young, she always told us how beautiful we were. And I mean, I've mentioned this in some of my previous video, she refers to me as negra, like that's her nickname for me. But and there might be some different thoughts as to whether that is really a term of endearment or if it's kind of like derogatory. Honestly, I don't take it as an offense at all. That's just me. But she's always called me like mi negra bella, mi negra linda, blah blah blah. So for me, I've always associated the word negra with something positive. And yeah, I just never heard her, my dad, or really any of the people in my close family that I grew up around, I never heard them really talk negatively about, darker features. So in that area, I was fortunate because there are Dominican people that they do place a lot of emphasis on that. And they do make fun of the people with, the nappy hair, for lack of a better word, the kinkier hair, or the big noses. And if you're super dark, they might be like, you look like a Haitian, as if that's supposed to be an insult, So it definitely exists. But going back to the point of the influence that we have as parents, like in my case, I never felt bad about being darker than my mom or, other family members, because I don't know, she always made me feel beautiful regardless. Now, I will say though, that although my skin is darker, some of my features may not necessarily be regarded as Afro features. For example, there have been times where certain family members of mine have made reference to my nose. In other words, saying that I have a thin nose, and they would say that I have a pretty nose. I don't know, because it's pointy and it's not wide. So I have experienced people pointing out my features because they regarded them to be more European type of features, not necessarily Black features. So that is something I feel like we kind of have to be careful for as well. If you do happen to be a darker person, but you may not necessarily have Afro features, if that makes sense. So we also don't want to, we got to be careful with that. I hope that makes sense. Now, the second thing is the influence that men have. And I 100% agree with this article in that men play such a huge role when it comes to the continuance and promotion of colorism within our communities. Like, hands down. I'm sorry. I hope this doesn't offend any of you guys. And I know not all men are colorists. Not all Black men are colorists, not all Hispanic men are colorists, but it exists, and y'all are the main promoters of it. Okay, I just have to keep it real. But this is what this article said. And this is, quote for quote. Men carry the bulk of the power in maintaining colorism inside the community. No matter how many times the womanists may clap back, most Black women who want a Black man as a lover, life partner, or husband seek to be considered desirable to the men in their culture. And then it goes on to say that the rejection by men because of the woman's hue is most painful. And I really have to agree with that, because again, it is the men that you will see either promoting, like I said, the fair-skinned women or the women with certain type of features. And you will even, there's even been certain rappers that have expressed, they're dark-skinned, but they have said they don't want a dark-skinned women. They don't want to have dark-skinned babies. And really, that just stems out of, their own self-hate that unfortunately some of these men possess, just because of whatever, they may have experienced growing up because they were darker skinned. Which again, it's like a perpetual continuous cycle. And it's unfortunate. It needs to stop. But, unfortunately, these men didn't really have someone to kind of tell them yo, it's okay to be dark skinned. Dark skin does not equal ugly. Dark skin doesn't equal undesirable. Of course, that's not to say that there aren't, Black men of different cultures that don't like their Black women. Of course. I mean, there are men that appreciate the darker skin, more chocolate type of women, but you don't hear about them as much. They don't get promoted as much. Or if they love the dark skin women, they don't speak up about it, so it's where y'all at? Where are the men that appreciate the more chocolatey, darker skinned women? The things that we see men celebrate, the things that we see men, show more favoritism towards, show more preference towards. If you are not what they are promoting, it can impact your own feeling of self-worth. It can impact your own feeling of, desirability. And, it's sad because I do feel that, most Black women want a Black man. But then it's what are you to do when these Black men want either the lighter skinned girls or just light women of completely different backgrounds? So in that regards, I do feel like men, you do need to do your part in trying to decolonize your mind in a way. And just, this is not to say that you have to like dark skinned women. I'm not trying to say that. Like I said in my previous video, we all have our taste, and that is totally fine. But I do think that men need to be mindful of what they promote. If you like you're lighter skinned women, that's fine. But you know, I feel like celebrities, for example, they have to be mindful of the image that they're putting out there. And I feel like they should at least try to be more inclusive of the women they put in their videos. And also just the things that they say online. Like these rappers that have said, I don't want no dark-skinned woman and blah blah blah, like they're assholes. Like, I'm sorry, they're messed up for even saying that. But you know, it's definitely a collective effort. Like I said, I do feel like progress is being made. You know, more people are speaking up about it. And I do think, you know, through different platforms, we have been kind of changing the perspective of what beauty is, and that's great. And you know what? At the end of the day, I truly feel that there is beauty in every complexion. And the other side of this is, I don't think that you have to like bash or talk bad about lighter skinned women in the process. Like, we don't need to do that, okay? We don't need to, you know, like I said, bash them. Because for the most part, it's not their fault that these men don't like themselves and that they possess self-hate a lot of times and therefore only go after them. So we don't gotta bash each other as women. We definitely don't need to do that. Just recognize that there is beauty in every skin tone and every color and every feature, whether you have more European type of features or especially if you have more, you know, Black type Afro features. You know, we have to learn to find beauty in all of it. Like I've said this before, you know, when it comes to hair, no one type of hair is better than another texture of hair. When it comes to skin color, it's just skin color. We shouldn't be viewing one or a few shades as more desirable than another shade. You know what I mean? So anyway, that was my 2 cents on this whole subject. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.